Hello, welcome today to listen to Daf Yomi, Chapter Bekhorot, Masechet Bekhorot, Daf 51, Omid A. So let's dive straight in. So just carrying on from the last Omid. The Gemara relates that Hanan the wicked struck a certain man. He came before Rav Huna before judgment, and Rav Huna said to him, Go give him half a dinar, which is a fine imposed for such an action. Haman had an impaired dinar with him, which is not in circulation, and his victim did not want to accept it from him. So what's a Zusa Macha, an impaired dinar? This is a coin whose image is rubbed out. Although, strictly speaking, it is considered a legally valid coin, many people refuse to accept it as payment. In a situation where there is no need to exchange it, in order to receive smaller change, some people accept it. This is the reason why Hanan the wicked was permitted to pay for the damage using this coin. And that's from the Rashbam Bava Kama 37a, and see the bar there. An impaired dinar. This term refers to a coin whose form has become eroded or damaged, either as a result of being beaten or simply due to prolonged use. While a coin's basic value is based on the value of the metal with which it was made, its worth was nevertheless greatly enhanced by it being stamped with a government seal attesting to the nature of the metal and its weight. Consequently, a coin whose imprint had worn away became suspect, as those not expert in such matters would be reluctant to accept it, despite the fact that its nominal value remained the same. Hanan the wicked then struck him another time, rendering himself liable to pay an additional fine for one half a dinar, and he gave him the full dinar as payment for both strikes. The Mishnah teaches that the 30 shekels paid to the owner of a Canaanite slave who was killed by an ox, and the 50 shekels paid by a rapist and by a seducer, and the 100 shekels paid by the defamer are all paid in the shekel of the sanctuary, which is calculated based on 100 Tyrinian dinars. The Gemara asks, why do I need this additional mention of all are paid in the shekel of the sanctuary, which is calculated based on 100 Tyrinian dinars? The Tana of the Mishnah already taught this in the first clause. The Gemara explains, it was necessary to state the cases of the rapist and the defamer, as it might enter your mind to say, since the term shekels is not written with regard to them, but only money, say that one pays merely dinars and not shekels, which are worth 4 dinars. Therefore, the Tana teaches us that the halakha of all these cases are derived from one another, and in all of them the payment is the shekel of the sanctuary. The Mishnah further teaches, and all monetary obligations are redeemed, i.e. paid with coins or with items of an equivalent value of money, except for the half shekels. The half shekel was an annual contribution to the temple. All male Jews were required to contribute annually a half a shekel to the temple before the first day of the Hebrew month of Nisan, which was the first day of the new temple year. This money was used to cover the expenses of the temple, which included buying communal offerings and paying for repairs, and maintaining and repairing the walls of Jerusalem. From the beginning of the month of Adar, notice was served to the public that the half shekel contribution would soon be due. The exact value of the half shekel changed several times over the course of generations. Nowadays, toward the end of part of Esther on the 13th of Adar, before the beginning of Purim, there is a custom to contribute to charity in commemoration of the half shekel. The halakha of the half shekel contribution to the temple are discussed in Chapter Ishakal. And there's a picture, if you have the Steinschultz edition, the Koran, there's a picture here of a shekel minted by Bar Kochba that are donated to the temple each year, which must be given specifically as coins. The Gemara notes that it is taught in the Braita, all monetary obligations are redeemed with coins or with their equivalent value, except for the half shekels and second tithe. Pidyon Master Sheni. One may redeem second tithe produce with money. This money must be a coin that has a form or writing engraved on it. If he attempted to redeem the produce with a lump of silver and the like, his action is ineffective. This halakha is according to the Braita on the Mishnah Tractate Master Sheni 1:2, Rambam Sefer Zerayim, Hilchot Master Sheni 4:9. And the money for appearance, Harei Ayon. A man who is sent to Jerusalem for a pilgrimage festival should bring the burnt offerings of appearance, either of his own animals or money, with which to purchase these offerings. He should not bring an item of equivalent value for this purpose, even if it is worth a large amount of gold. Why did the sages prohibit using terms of equivalent value for this purpose? It is decreed lest one will be unable to sell the items that he bought, and to prevent him from bringing a lump sum of silver full of base metals to the temple courtyard. And that's the Ram Sefer Kabbalah Chagiga 1:3. The 2 silver ma'at that every man must bring to the temple to purchase burnt offerings of appearance on the pilgrimage festivals, all of which must be given as coins. The Gemara elaborates, halacha that the half shekel payment dues to the temple cannot be paid using items of equivalent value, as we learned in the Mishnah column 2:1. When people who live far from Jerusalem wish to send to Jerusalem the shekels that have been levied from their community, they may combine their shekels and exchange them for darics. Dalbonot, what's that? Dalbonot, the correct form of this term is probably the konot, as it appears in column 2:1. It refers to a gold coin and was first mentioned during the Persian era at the time of the emigration of the Jews from Babylonian to Eretz Yisrael. See Ezra 8:27. Some maintain that these coins were named after King Darius of Persia, while others contend that the dalkonot mentioned in the Mishnah refer to the Greek coins darikos, which are large gold coins due to the hardship of carrying on the journey. Instead of carrying a large amount of shekels, the agents who deliver the funds will bring a much lighter burden of gold coins with them. They may exchange them only for coins, not for items of equivalent value. The second tithe may not be redeemed with items of equivalent value, as it is written, and bind up Vitzauta, the money in your hand, Deuteronomy 14:25, which says interpreted as referring to money that has a form, a surah engraved on it, i.e. a coin. And with regard to the money for appearance, this is, as Rav Yosef teaches, that one may not bring a lump sum of silver full of base metals to the temple courtyard. The Mishnah. Ein podin lo ba'avadim velo b'shtaros velo b'kalkaos velo b'hesh deos. One may not redeem his firstborn son, neither with Canaanite slaves. A woman's firstborn son is redeemed with 5 set of coins or any item with that value that is movable and has intrinsic monetary value. One cannot use land, as it is not movable, or Canaanite slaves, which have a halachic status of land, or promising out for money owed to him by others to the shach, since it does not have any intrinsic monetary worth. If one tries to redeem with these items, the redemption is not valid. And that's the Rambam Sefer Zerayim Hilchot Bekhorot 11:6 Shulchan Aruch Yoreh 3:5-3. Nor with promissory notes, nor with land, nor with consecrated items. If the father wrote a promissory note to the priest, in a case where the father wrote a promissory note to the priest that he is obligated to give him 5 silver coins for the redemption of his son, his father is obligated to give him the money, but his son is not redeemed. And that's Rambam Sefer Zerayim Hilchot Bekhorot 11:7 Shulchan Aruch Yoreh 3:5-4. And he is obligated to give him 5 silver coins. The father is obligated to give them to him, but his son is not redeemed. Therefore, if the priest wished to give back the 5 silver coins to him as a gift, he is permitted to do so. With regard to one who designates 5 silver coins for redemption of his firstborn and he lost the coins, if one set aside 5 silver coins for redemption of his son and the money was lost before he gave it to the priest, the father bears financial responsibility to compensate the priest for it. And that's in Shulchan Aruch Yoreh 3:5-9. Before he gave them to the priest, the father bears financial responsibility for their loss, as is stated to Aaron the priest. Everything that opens the womb in man and animal shall be yours, and only afterward it says, you shall redeem the firstborn of man. Numbers 18:15. This indicates that only after the money shall be in the possession of the priest is the son redeemed. The Gemara continues. The Mishnah is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. It is, as it is taught in a Braita, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says, one can redeem a woman's firstborn son with anything worth 5 shekels except for promissory notes. This is different from the Mishnah, which also excludes Canaanite slaves and land. The Gemara asks, what is the reason for Rabbi Yehuda Nasi's opinion? The Gemara answers that he interprets verses using the method of amplifications and restrictions, and this is how he interprets the verse. And its redemption from 1 month you shall redeem, according to the valuation of 5 silver shekels by the shekel of the sanctuary, Numbers 18:16. Concerning the phrase and its redemption from 1 month, since it does not specify that only certain items can be used for redemption, the verse amplified the category of items that can be used to redeem the firstborn, intimating that many different items can be used. Then, with the phrase according to the valuation of 5 silver shekels, the verse restricted the category to items that are similar to silver shekels. Then with the phrase, you shall redeem, the verse again amplified the category. According to the hermeneutical principle, when a verse amplified and then restricted and then amplified, it amplified the relevant category to include everything except for the specific matter excluded in the restriction. The Gemara elaborates. What has it amplified? Almost everything. And what is it restricted? It restricted only promissory notes, which are most fundamentally dissimilar to silver shekels. The Gemara explains the reasoning of the rabbis, and the rabbis expound verses through the method of a generalization and a detail. Ribuye ute kalalufot. These two hermeneutical methods, which are based on statements of the early Tanaim, are both applied to the same verses, where the Torah describes the halacha by means of a broad phrase and by providing specific cases. In the method of generalization and a detail, each phrase is considered a clarification of the previous one. A broad phrase is taken as a general description of what is included in a certain category, and the specific cases that follow are understood as clarification of the generalization. Therefore, they serve to limit the category of the details mentioned. The verse mentions another generalization that is considered to be a further clarification that the details mentioned are mere examples of the principle, and therefore it teaches that any item that is similar to the details mentioned is also included in the category. In the method of implications and restrictions, each phrase is not taken as a clarification of the previous phrase, but serves to further expand or limit the extent of the category. Therefore, if there is an amplification followed by restriction, the restriction limits the amplification to items that are similar to the cases mentioned. If the Torah then provides another amplification, it will serve to further expand the category to include all possible cases. In such a case, the restriction's significance is severely limited and serves to exclude only a case that is fundamentally different from the specific cases mentioned. I lost the place. 1 second. They expound the verse as follows. The phrase "and redemption from 1 month" is a generalization which suggests that many different items can be used to redeem the firstborn. Then the phrase "according to the value of the silver shekels," 5 silver shekels, is a detail which suggests that only items that are similar to silver shekels can be used. Then with the phrase "you shall redeem," the verse again makes a generalization. Based on this exegetical method, whether a verse has a generalization and then a detail, and then a generalization, the principle is that you may deduce that the verse is referring only to items that are similar to the detail. In this case, just as the detail "I silver shekels" is explicitly something that is movable and has intrinsic monetary value, so too anything that is movable and has intrinsic monetary value can be used. This excludes land, which is not movable property. It excludes Canaanite slaves, who are athletically compared to land. Avodim shehukshu kalkaos. This principle is based on a verse referring to Canaanite slaves. "And you shall make them an inheritance for your children after you," in Leviticus 25:46, which teaches that these slaves have the status of an ancestral inheritance. From here, it is derived that Canaanite slaves have a halachic status of property. See Bava Kama 11b, and it excludes promissory notes because even though they are movable property, they do not have an intrinsic monetary value. Ravina said to Mema, does Rabbi Huda Nasi really expound verses through the method of amplification restrictions? Does Rabbi Huda Nasi expound verses through the method of generalization and details with regard to an all? And the picture here, an all is a mosaic. The picture here of an ancient bronze all from Cyprus. This is as is taught in the Braita. The Torah provides the process by which a Hebrew slave who has already completed his 6 years of servitude may continue on as a slave of his master. "And you shall take an awl and put it through his ear and in the door," Deuteronomy 15:17. From this verse, I have derived that only an awl can be used. From where do I know to include a thorn of a palm? What's that? A thorn of a palm. A similar term is mentioned in the Bible, in Ezekiel 28:24. It refers to a thorn that grows on the front of a palm tree. And a thorn, a seerah thorn is mentioned in the Bible, is identified today with the thorny bush, Saricopterium nobsum of the Rosaceae family. A small bush 30 to 60 centimeters in height is tangled and thorny and is commonly found in the hilly areas of north of Beersheba, covering large areas of the peripheries of groves and the places where thickets are found. The plant has thorny leaves with distinctive bracts surrounding small reddish flowers. a needle and a gimlet, and a stylus for writing on wax, as valid tools for piercing his ear. The verse states, and you shall take, which indicates that anything that can be taken by hand. What the footnote called Dover Shenishkach Biyad. The commentators explain that even according to this opinion, one may pierce a slave's ear with any item that can be held in the hand. Whether it is made of wood or of any other material, one may not use an ointment for this purpose, as ointment cannot be held directly in one's hand, but must be kept in a container, as in Shavuot 4b. The valid tool. This is the statement of Rabbi Yossi, son of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi said, not all these items can be used. But the since the verse specifies an all, only items similar to an all can be used, just as an all is distinct, and that this is fashioned of metal. In order for a Hebrew slave to remain a slave to his master after having completed his 6 years of servitude, he must have his ear pierced. The procedure is done on the upper portion of his right ear using a metal tool. This is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. And Rambam says, "V'kenin hechet avodim 3:9." So to anything fashioned of metal can be used. And we say with regard to this dispute, and what do they do, and what do they disagree? Rabbi Yehuda Nasi expounds verses in using the method of generalization and details, and Rabbi Yossi, son of Rabbi Yehuda, expounds verses using the method of implication and restrictions. And Meimah answers, yes, generally Rabbi Yehuda Nasi expounds verses using a method of generalization and details, but here with regard to the redemption of the firstborn, this is the reason he expounds the verses using a method of implication and restrictions. He holds in accordance with that which the school of Rabbi Yishmael taught. As the school of Rabbi Yishmael taught, when defining which fish is permitted to eat, the verse states, this you may eat, from whatever is in the water, anything that has fins and scales in the water, in the seas, and in the stream, Leviticus 11:9. The verse first states the general term in the water, mentioning it twice, and only afterward mentions the details, i.e. in the seas and in the streams. When the general and the detailed phrases are ordered in this way, they are not expounded as a generalization and a detail, but rather the verse amplified and restricted. So what does that mean? Riba umiyat. The amplification includes trenches and ditches, i.e. that water creatures found in them without fins and scales are prohibited. Restriction serves to exclude pits, ditches, and caves, which are bodies of still water, with regard to which water creatures found in them are permitted. 67a. Although Rabbi Yehuda Nasi generally expounds verses using the method of generalization and details with regard to the redemption of the firstborn, since the verse mentions the two general terms first and mentions a specific detail only afterward, he expounds it using the method of amplifications and restrictions. The Gemara asks, and with regard to the rabbis, why do they expound the verse about the redemption of the firstborn and the generalization and the details? Sages say this is like they say in the West, wherever you find generalizations juxtaposed to each other, followed by a specific detail, place the detail between the two generalizations and thereby expound them as a generalization and a detail, followed by another generalization. The Mishnah teaches, and one may not redeem a firstborn with consecrated items. The Gemara asks, is this obvious? Consecrated items are not his. The Gemara say that, and that moves on to the next Amud. Thank you for listening, and wish you all the best. Bye.